I was 67 years old, standing in the freezing Chicago winter snow, when my own daughter slammed the door in my face and screamed, "Mom, you're a burden. Get out and never come back." With just one worn suitcase, $47 in crumpled bills, and the thin coat on my back, I thought that was the end of my life. The wind howled. My tears froze on my cheeks. I had sacrificed everything for her, and she threw me away like yesterday's trash. But what happened over the next 2 years? The pain, the darkness, the unexpected kindness, and the shocking twist will prove that sometimes the worst rejection is the beginning of your greatest strength. If you've ever been abandoned by the people you loved most, stay with me until the very end. This is my true story. Hello everyone, welcome back to Stories That Heal the Heart. My name is Margaret Thompson, and today I'm sharing the raw, unfiltered journey of how I was thrown out by my daughter, and how walking away alone in the cold taught me a power I never knew existed inside me. Let me take you back to the beginning. I grew up in a modest neighborhood on the south side of Chicago in the 1950s. My father worked in the steel mills. My mother cleaned houses. We didn't have much, but we had love. I became a registered nurse in my early 20s, one of the proudest days of my life. I met my husband Robert at the hospital. He was a kind-hearted truck driver with a big laugh that could fill any room. We married in 1978. Life wasn't perfect, but it was ours. We had one daughter, Emily, born in 1985. From the moment I held her tiny body in my arms, she became my entire world. Robert used to tease me, saying, "Maggie, you're going to spoil that girl rotten." And I did. I worked double shifts, days as a nurse at Cook County Hospital, nights waitressing at a diner, just so Emily could have dance lessons, new clothes, and later, the best college education. When Emily was 10, Robert was diagnosed with aggressive lung cancer. He fought hard for 2 years, but in 1997 he passed away in my arms at the hospital. I was 38, widowed, with a heartbroken 12-year-old daughter who clung to me every night crying for her daddy. I promised myself then I would never let Emily feel alone. I would give her the stability I barely had. So I poured everything into her. I skipped vacations, wore the same winter coat for 15 years, and saved every extra penny for her future. Emily grew into a beautiful, ambitious young woman. She graduated from the University of Illinois with a business degree. I paid for every semester. Then she met David, a successful marketing executive. Their wedding in 2010 was extravagant. I took a second mortgage on my small house to help cover it. "Mom, you're the best," Emily whispered as she hugged me that day. After the wedding, they bought a large suburban home in Naperville. When my arthritis started worsening and I could no longer manage full nursing shifts, Emily suggested I move in with them. "It'll be perfect, Mom. You can help with the grandbaby when he comes." My grandson, little Jacob, was born in 2015. Those early years were golden. I cooked meals, changed diapers, read bedtime stories, and helped around the house while Emily and David climbed their careers. I felt useful, loved, needed, but slowly cracks began to appear. David got a big promotion in 2019. The house grew quieter. Emily started working longer hours. Small comments turned into complaints. "Mom, the house smells like old people food. Why do you watch those same reruns every night? We're paying for everything, can't you contribute more?" I tried. I gave them my entire Social Security check every month. I stopped asking for new clothes. I stayed in my small basement room so they could have privacy. But nothing seemed enough. Then came 2022. The pandemic had strained everyone, but their marriage was cracking under financial pressure. David's company downsized. Bills piled up. One evening in December, Emily came home from work exhausted and furious. I was in the kitchen making chicken soup, Jacob's favorite. She stormed in, threw her bag on the table, and looked at me with eyes full of resentment I had never seen before. "Mom, we need to talk." My heart sank. What is it, sweetheart? She crossed her arms. David and I are drowning. The mortgage, Jacob's private school, my student loans you co-signed. It's too much. And you've been living here rent-free for years now. You're not working. You're just here. I felt the room spin. Emily, I help every day. I cook, I clean, I take care of Jacob after school. I give you my whole check. That's not enough anymore, she shouted. Her voice echoed through the big house. You're a burden, Mom. We can't keep carrying you. I need you to leave. Tears welled in my eyes. Leave. Where would I go? It's snowing outside. It's below freezing. She didn't flinch. Figure it out. Pack your things tonight, I begged. I cried. I reminded her of every sacrifice the nights I worked while she slept. The college tuition, the wedding, the down payment on this very house. Jacob came downstairs hearing the noise and started crying. Grandma, don't go. Emily grabbed my old suitcase from the closet, started throwing my clothes inside haphazardly: sweaters, photo albums, my late husband's wedding ring, a few medications. She shoved the suitcase toward me. Get out, Mom. I don't want to see your face again. The door opened. Arctic wind blasted in. Snow swirled like angry ghosts. I stepped outside in my house slippers, the cold biting instantly through my thin socks. The door slammed behind me with a finality that shattered my heart. I stood there for what felt like hours. Suitcase in one hand, the other clutching my thin coat. My phone battery was dead. I had exactly $47 in my purse left over from grocery money I had saved. No credit cards. No friends close enough to call at midnight. My knees throbbed from arthritis. The snow was already soaking my feet. I started walking. 1 block. 2. The wind howled louder. Streetlights blurred through my tears. I thought about turning back, knocking, begging again. But pride, or maybe fear of more rejection, kept me moving as I trudged through the snow. Memories flooded me like a broken dam. I remembered holding newborn Emily, promising her the world. I remembered Robert's funeral, how she had clutched my hand so tight her nails left marks. I remembered her high school graduation, where I cheered louder than anyone, even though I was exhausted from a night shift. How did we get here? When did my little girl become this stranger who saw me as a burden instead of her mother? My feet went numb. My fingers burned with cold. I passed closed shops, empty parks. At one point, I sat on a frozen bench in a small neighborhood park. The snow piled on my lap. I whispered to the darkness, Robert, if you're watching, help me. I don't know if I can do this. A car drove by slowly. For a second, I hoped it was Emily coming to apologize. It wasn't. It kept going. I forced myself up. If I stayed, I would freeze to death. I kept walking toward the city outskirts, where I vaguely remembered an old 24-hour diner from my waitressing days decades ago. Hours passed. It must have been close to 2 a.m. when I finally pushed open the door of Rosa's Diner, a dimly lit place with cracked vinyl booths and the smell of grease and coffee. The few customers looked up. I must have looked like a ghost, hair matted with snow, face red from cold and crying, suitcase dripping. The waitress behind the counter, a sturdy Latina woman in her 50s named Rosa, took one look at me and rushed over. Honey, you okay? You look half frozen. I collapsed into a booth. Words wouldn't come at first. She brought hot coffee, a blanket from the back, and a bowl of soup without asking for money. Drink slow, she said gently. Tell me when you're ready. That night, between sobs, I told her everything. Rosa listened without interrupting. When I finished, she squeezed my hand. Been there, Mia. My own son did something similar years ago. But you know what? Rock bottom has a way of showing you how strong you really are. She let me sleep in the back storage room on a makeshift cot that night. It smelled of onions and cleaner, but it was warm. For the first time in hours, I didn't feel completely alone. Morning came, gray and cold. Rosa gave me breakfast and a bus pass. You can't stay here forever, but today you rest. Tomorrow, you fight. Instead of calling Emily to beg, something shifted inside me. A quiet fire. I remembered my nursing license was still active, even if I hadn't practiced full-time in years. I had skills, experience. I wasn't useless. I spent the day at the public library, using their computers to apply for home care nursing jobs. Most applications asked for recent experience. Rejections came fast in my email when I could check it at the library. But one small agency, Compassionate Care at Home, replied the same day. They needed night shift aides for elderly clients. The pay was modest, $15 an hour to start, but they were willing to give me a trial. I interviewed over the phone from the library. The director, a kind woman named Linda, said, "We value heart over perfect resumes here. Margaret, can you start tonight?" That evening, I took the bus to my first client, an 82-year-old man named Mr. Henderson who had dementia. His apartment was small but warm. I helped him with medications, prepared a simple meal, and sat with him while he told rambling stories about his time in the Navy. For the first time since being thrown out, I felt useful again. Needed, not as a burden, but as Margaret the nurse. I rented a tiny studio apartment above a laundromat in a working-class neighborhood, using my first partial paycheck and a small emergency fund from Rosa's church group. It was 300 square feet of peeling paint, a sagging mattress, a hot plate, and a window that rattled in the wind. But it was mine. No one could slam a door on me here. The next months were brutal. I worked 12-hour night shifts, often walking home in the early morning cold because buses didn't run frequently. My arthritis flared badly. Some nights my knees swelled so much I could barely climb the stairs to my apartment. I ate cheap ramen and peanut butter sandwiches to save money. I missed Jacob terribly, his laughter, his sticky hugs. I wondered if Emily ever let him ask about Grandma. There were dark nights when despair hit hard. I would sit on my mattress, staring at the cracked ceiling, and think about calling Emily. "Just apologize," the weak voice in my head whispered. "Go back. Be the quiet grandmother in the basement again." But then I remembered the snow, the slammed door, the words, "You're a burden." And I chose to keep going. I started small side hustles. I used my old sewing skills to mend clothes for neighbors for a few dollars. I baked cookies using Rosa's recipes and sold them at the laundromat. Every extra dollar went into a freedom fund for better shoes, warmer coats, maybe even a used laptop one day. Friends from my old life slowly reconnected when they heard through the grapevine. One former nursing colleague, Sarah, helped me update my resume and get certified in basic home health again. Another friend from church drove me to interviews when the bus was unreliable. Setbacks came too. One client's family accused me of stealing. I hadn't. It was a misunderstanding with missing medication. I was let go for 2 weeks while it was sorted. During that time, I ate once a day and worried about eviction. But I prayed, walked the streets looking for odd jobs, and held on. 14 months after that freezing night, my life had stabilized somewhat. I had steady clients, a small circle of support, and even started volunteering at a senior center on my off days, teaching basic health tips to other older adults. I felt stronger, not the same broken woman who stood in the snow. Then came the twist I never saw coming. One Tuesday afternoon, the agency assigned me a new private client, a wealthy 78-year-old widow who had recently returned to Chicago from Florida. The address was in a luxurious high-rise downtown. When I arrived for the initial assessment, the doorman let me up. I knocked on the door. A polished voice called, "Come in." I stepped inside the elegant apartment filled with art and sunlight. The client was sitting in a comfortable chair by the window. Our eyes met. It was David's mother, Emily's mother-in-law, Eleanor Harrington. She recognized me instantly. Her eyes widened. "Margaret, is that really you?" We sat for over an hour. She had no idea what had happened between Emily and me. When I quietly shared the story, keeping it factual, Without bitterness, Eleanor was stunned. She had always liked me, remembered me as the devoted mother at the wedding. That evening, Eleanor made a phone call to Emily. The next day, there was a knock on my tiny studio door. I opened it. There stood Emily Thinney, eyes puffy, holding Jacob's hand. She looked exhausted, broken. Behind her were a few suitcases. "Mom," her voice cracked, "we lost the house. David left me for someone else 6 months ago. He took most of the money. We've been staying with friends, but I have nowhere else to go. Jacob keeps asking for you. I'm so sorry. I was wrong. I was cruel. Please, can we stay with you? Even for a little while." The same daughter who had thrown me into the snow was now standing on my doorstep, begging. I invited them in. The small space felt even tinier with 3 people. Jacob ran to me, burying his face in my sweater, crying, "Grandma." My heart melted, but I stayed grounded. Emily sobbed as she explained the full story. Mounting debts, David's affair, the foreclosure. She admitted she had taken out her stress and fear on me because I was the safest target, the one who had always forgiven everything. "I thought if I pushed you away I could pretend I was strong and independent," she whispered. "But I was just scared and mean. You deserved better." I listened quietly. Part of me wanted to hug her immediately, to say, "Of course, come home." But another part, the part that had walked through the snow, rebuilt from nothing, and found dignity in a leaking studio, spoke up. "Emily, I forgive you. Truly, a mother's love doesn't disappear, even when it's trampled." She looked hopeful. "But," I continued, "I'm not the same woman you threw out that night. I've built something here. This tiny place is mine. My routines, my peace, my small victories, they belong to me now. I won't go back to being the invisible burden in someone else's home." Emily's face fell. Jacob looked between us, confused. I softened my tone. "You and Jacob can stay here for a few weeks while you get back on your feet. We'll make it work, bunk beds, shared meals, whatever it takes. But long term, I need my own space. And you need to learn how to stand on your own too. Help you find resources, job leads, counseling, but I won't sacrifice the strength I finally found." Tears streamed down Emily's face. She nodded slowly. "I understand, Mom. Thank you for not slamming the door on me." That night, as Jacob slept between us on the pulled-out mattress, I lay awake thinking. Forgiveness didn't mean forgetting the lesson. Love didn't mean losing myself again. Over the next months, we coexisted carefully. Emily got a job at a local firm. I continued my nursing work, now with more confidence. We had honest conversations, sometimes painful, sometimes healing. Jacob thrived with both of us. Slowly, Emily started respecting my boundaries. I expanded my small business. I partnered with Rosa to offer simple home-cooked meal services for busy families and seniors. It grew. Within another year, I moved to a slightly larger 1-bedroom apartment. Not luxury, but comfortable and mine. Emily eventually found her own place nearby. We see each other often now as equals, not as burden and provider. She tells Jacob stories about how Grandma walked through the snow and became a superhero. And me, I discovered my true strength wasn't in how much I could give others, until I broke. It was in how I could stand alone, rebuild, and still choose love without losing myself, friends. Here's the deepest lesson I learned through all the pain, the cold nights, the doubt, and the slow comeback. Sometimes the people who hurt you the most are the ones who force you to discover the version of yourself you were always meant to become. Never make any person, not even your own child, the center of your entire identity and worth. Love them deeply. Sacrifice when it's right. But always keep a sacred part of yourself that no rejection can touch. When life or family throws you out into the cold, don't spend your energy begging at the same closed door. Walk away, feel the pain fully. Then use it as fuel to rise. Your lowest moment can become the foundation of your greatest chapter. Your rejection can redirect you toward a life of quiet power and self-respect. If you are watching this right now and feeling broken, abandoned, or worthless because someone you poured your heart into turned away, know this: your story isn't over. The strength is already inside you. It's waiting for you to walk away and claim it. Start small. One step. One hot cup of coffee from a kind stranger. One application. One night where you choose hope over despair. You are stronger than the snow. Stronger than the slammed door. Stronger than you know. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Stories like this take time to tell because real healing isn't quick, it's earned. If this resonated with you, please hit the like button. It helps more people find messages of hope. And if you haven't already, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss another story of resilience and redemption. Drop in the comments, "I am choosing my strength," if you're ready to walk away from anything that dims your light. Share this video with someone who needs to hear they are not a burden, they are powerful. God bless you. Stay warm. Stay strong. Your best days are still ahead. See you in the next story. Thank you for watching. With love, Margaret.